Hello, I'm going to start Granny Shares again today, and we're going to start in verse 13. We talked about Judah yesterday, and Jacob had covered Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah as his telling about the tribes and what was going to happen to them in the last days, and giving them his blessing. Gather yourselves together and hear, ye sons of Jacob, and hearken unto Israel your father. But he said that I may tell you what shall befall you in the last days. So he was acting as a prophet to his sons. And here he finished with Judah. But let's go over that in verse 11, where it says he washed his garments in white and his clothes in the blood of grapes. His eyes shall be red with wine and his teeth white with milk. He's talking about the Son of God that's coming through the tribe of Judah. He's prophesying about binding his foal unto a vine and his ass's colt unto the choice vine. The choice vine was Jesus. I am the vine, ye are the branches, remember? And then also where he said he washed his garments in wine and his clothes in the blood of grapes. We go over into Revelation in chapter 19. It says, and he was clothed with a vesture dipped in blood, and his name is called the Word of God. He was clothed with a vesture dipped in blood. So here it refers back to he's washed his garments in wine and his clothes in the blood of grapes. Do you remember when we talk about communion, how we use the grapes, the juice of grapes to drink when we were drinking his blood, and we use unleavened bread when we're eating his flesh to symbolize that? And so that's what this is referring to, is him having his vesture dipped in blood. So this is from Genesis to Revelation. Isn't that amazing? Genesis chapter 49 to Revelation chapter 19 is bringing us all the way through the Bible back to how Jesus has his vesture dipped in blood. He washed his garments in wine and his clothes in the blood of grapes. Isn't that amazing? His eyes shall be red with wine and his teeth white with milk. So he is everything we need. He's everything we need. When we're needing the wine or his blood, he has that available. When we're needing the milk, when we're needing to be fed on the milk, then it's available. Everything that Jesus is what we need. And Jacob was prophesying about the greatness of this offspring of Judah. Now we'll start on 13, which says, Zebulun shall dwell at the haven of the sea, and he shall be for an haven of ships, and his border shall be unto Zidon. And we find out that when they divided the tribes, it seemed that they cast lots. In some ways, we'll learn about that as we study over on into where they divided the tribes up in Joshua. We find out that it seemed that they cast lots. I can't remember exactly where that is, but that's what I believe that they did. And these prophecies of the land that the tribes would be in, their land and what they would be like, that they were worked out in the dispensation of the land of Israel to the different tribes. And you know, back in the back of your Bible, you'll usually find a map that has the tribes divided up on that map. Here it is right here. Canaan as divided among the 12 tribes. And here's Naphtali, and it says that he was by the sea, shall dwell at the haven of the sea, and he shall be an haven of ships, and his border shall be unto Zidon. And back here is Zidon, and it says it has Naphtali, and there is his land near the sea. And then it says Issachar is a strong ass couching down between two burdens. So Issachar was going to be a tribe that was going to be a working tribe, a tribe that was going to have to handle some work that it did. And let's look. I'm going to look back at that map again. We'll look at it and see where Issachar was. Let's see. We know that Issachar, Naphtali, and Gad and Asher were the sons of the maids of Jacob, or Leah and Rachel. So let's see. We'll find Issachar here. Looking for, Issachar is down here below Naphtali, near the Sea of Galilee. So he says a strong house couching between two burdens. I was wondering if it was the kind of land that he had, what it was like, because it seemed like he's right in the middle of the other tribes, Issachar is. And maybe he was trying to make something of himself, being in the middle of all the other tribes. And he saw that rest was good, and the land that it was pleasant, and bowed his shoulder to bear, and became a servant under tribute. So he was working hard to keep his land, Issachar was. And later on, when it looked like that he was going to have to pay money to stay in the land, have to pay tribute, he bowed his shoulder to bear and become a servant under tribute. That was the characteristic of that tribe, that the men in that tribe did whatever they could do to keep their land. Dan shall judge his people, and that's what Dan meant, was judge. Dan shall judge his people as one of the tribes of Israel. Dan shall be a serpent by the way, an adder in the path, that biteth the horse heels, so that his rider shall fall backward. I have waited for thy salvation, O God. Now we look about Dan, and we can see people in the Bible that were from the tribe of Dan, and one of them was Samson. And Samson, when he had enemies, he did something about them, didn't he? And here it says, Dan shall be a serpent by the way, an adder in the path, that biteth the horse heels, so that his rider shall fall backward. He's not somebody that just lets somebody do anything to him. He's going to be kind of like a serpent, biting them for if they're doing something he doesn't like. And we know that Samson was very, if they did something to him, he did worse back to them, didn't he? That's why he was called to help defeat the Philistines, because he'd do worse back to them. And Dan shall be a serpent by the way. So Jacob is saying, this is what your tribe's going to be like. But then in verse 18, Jacob says, I have waited for thy salvation, O Lord. Right in the middle of telling about the tribes and what's going to happen to them in the last days, he, their father, says, I have waited for thy salvation, O Lord. Did you know now that the Jews have waited for his salvation? They're waiting for their Messiah, and they don't believe in Jesus. And would Jacob, if he were here, would he believe in Jesus? Yes, he would. He had seen the Lord. He'd wrestled with him. And perhaps this inserted in this chapter about the tribes of the sons that he had was to try to help them think about what they need from God. I have waited for thy salvation, O Lord. And realize that their daddy cared about God and his salvation. And perhaps they should, no matter what happened to them in the last days, should seek that more than anything else. Verse 19 says, Gad, a troop, shall overcome him, but he shall overcome at the last. And when I believe Leah had him. Let's see, let's look back here. I want to see who had Gad and who had all of them. Okay. Leah, Zilpah had, let's see who she had. Okay. Bilhah had Dan and Naphtali. And Zilpah had Gad and Asher, just like we said. But Leah named Gad, saying, a troop cometh. And she called his name Gad. And she named Asher, and happy am I, for the daughters will call me blessed, and she called his name Asher. So they had names, they gave them names. And Rachel and Leah gave the boys names, even though they were the other ladies, the other maids' children. Okay, so when he said, Gad, a troop shall overcome him, but he shall overcome at the last. So his name about a troop cometh was prophesying that his tribe was going to be overcome. But Jacob said he shall overcome at the last. That's a great encouragement, isn't it? I'm sure the tribe of Gad held on to that many times. Don't you think? I would think. Out of Asher, his bread shall be fat, and he shall yield royal dainties. Now there is another place in about prophesying about Asher that is kind of the same, saying the same thing. Let's look in Deuteronomy 33 and 24, because Moses also talked about the different tribes, but this one is in particular I wanted to go to. Deuteronomy 33 and 24. It says, and of Asher, he said, let Asher be blessed with children, let him be acceptable to his brethren, and let him dip his foot in oil. Thy shoe shall be iron and brass, and as thy days, so shall thy strength be. We could have compared these with all of these, but that's going to take a lot of time, and I'm not going to do that now. But I did want to compare this one about Asher, because I have heard that people go look at the land of Asher, where Asher was given his land. And I was surprised to see that a lot of it was by the Mediterranean Sea. It is. In fact, all of it. It has a coast, and Asher is where Tyre is. And then it said something about dipping their feet in oil. And this is, Jacob said, out of Asher his bread shall be fat. That's oil. And he shall yield royal dainties. Listen, people have gone to the land of Asher prospecting for oil. Because I heard a preacher once say, that was talking about Israel, said that it was the only Middle Eastern country that didn't have oil. And, you know, all of the rest, the Saudi Arabia and Iran and all them are getting rich off of oil. But they haven't found oil in Israel. And so people read these prophecies about Asher, and then go look, prospecting for oil on their land. But did you understand too? We know that they get oil out of the ocean, out of the seas. And perhaps there's going to be a discovery of a great pocket of oil under the Mediterranean Sea right outside of Asher. I don't know if they've tried that. They've tried the land itself, but they haven't found oil. But maybe there will be a great discovery of much oil right on the other side of Asher in the Mediterranean Sea. I don't know. But anyhow, both of those prophecies seem to be saying that there's fat, there's oil, dip his foot in oil. So we'll just watch and see about that in the last days. And it says, Naphtali is a hind let loose. He giveth goodly words. A hind let loose. Now, Jacob is likening his children to animals. Judah is the lion's whelp. Dan is a serpent, by the way. Naphtali is a hind let loose. He's not in captivity. He giveth goodly words. And we read about Naphtali giving words. There's other places. Let's see what it says here. He giveth goodly words. Let's see in verse 21. Deuteronomy 33 and 23. It's going back over to that same spot in Deuteronomy where Moses prophesied about the tribes. Let's look what he said about Naphtali. Deuteronomy 33. You can, if you want to, and you'd like to look at this, you can go back and forth and look at the different ones. It says, of Naphtali, he said, of Naphtali satisfied with favor, full with the blessing of the Lord, possess thou the west and the south. So it doesn't talk about the goodly words, but I have seen in other places in the Bible about Naphtali and the goodly words. I don't know what Naphtali had to do with the Bible. He may have had something to do with the Bible being translated or the Bible being given. Let's look up Naphtali. He's up here. Yeah, there's Zebulun by the sea right there. I was looking at the wrong one. I was looking at Naphtali. But it says he was, he giveth goodly words. That's something to look up in the Bible. I didn't look it up. Let's look. Let's just look at his name back here and see what they say. I'm probably running out of time. I am. Okay, let me just look. Naphtali, N-A-P-H. There it is. Struggle for. One of the 12 spies, tribe, subdues the kills some captives, loyal to David. I'm going to look in that 1 Chronicles 12 and see 23 and 24. It seems to me that there was something about Naphtali and words somewhere else in the Bible. 12 and 24. 23 and 24. I don't see it right here. So I'm just going to leave that. I'll have to look it up later and see if I can see. Yeah, here it says, and of Naphtali 1,000 captains, and with them with shield and spear 30 and 7,000. It doesn't talk about his words, but I know that I have somewhere read in the Bible about Naphtali and his good words. If you know it, put it in the comments, if you will. And I'm going to stop right there. We'll get on Joseph tomorrow. Okay? God bless you. I hope this has been interesting and informative, but did the best I could. God bless y'all.